is our periodic table of ions. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're going to look at the periodic table of ions to find the different elements. Oh my God. Okay, to find the elements in that compound. So here's copper, Cu. And then SO4 is something that stays together. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Sulfate.
Yes, it's right here, sulfate. So it stays together as one thing, and we call it sulfate. Oh my God. Okay. So that's the name there. So we have copper sulfate for the first part. Copper was one of those that had two options with it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Copper has +1 or +2. So we have to figure out which one it is. Sulfate is charged -2. So which one could we crisscross? Excuse me. So that the end result looks like this.
I think it is -2.
Yeah, and so we could try them both and just see what happens. So if we crisscross 2 and 2, well, we know that common factors can be divided out. And so in the end, I would have CuSO4. So it will be copper 2 sulfate. So you can buy copper 2 sulfate as what's called a hydrate. And a hydrate just means it has a dot in the middle, meaning it's not one compound. It's not CuSO4,5H2O. It's associated so strongly with those H2Os that they're connected, but they're not bonded together. And for naming the H2O part, we're going to use the same prefixes that we used in molecular naming. That was mono, di, tri, tetra. And then what was 5?
I think it was like a quin.
No, but that is sometimes a prefix for 5. In this case, it started with a P.
Oh, penta.
Yeah. So we would say penta for the 5. And then hydrate for the water. So it would be copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate. So that's how we would name the full compound. Okay. So that's the last one we'll do for naming right now. I was going to do acids and bases naming, but I think I'll leave that till when we do acids and bases later on when we actually do calculations with them, because I feel like we've been doing a lot of naming. So let's actually get into reactions. So in the chat or unmute your mic, what are some things you know about chemical reactions? You can go ahead and type something in the chat or unmute your mic.
Like some substance changes.
Yes. And it's actually the bonds between atoms change, which change the substance. What's something you might see? because we can't see the bonds changing between atoms. They're too small. What is something that you could see that could indicate a chemical reaction? Maybe in real life you've seen some.
Fire.
Yeah, we could observe fire, which could also just be heat. It doesn't have to be as hot as fire. What else could we observe? What else might you see when you do a chemical reaction?
Mm,
Does anyone have any ideas? Yeah, acids will cause chemical reactions. They're very reactive. And when an acid is mixed with something, what might you see that indicates a reaction is happening? And in particular with acids, it happens quite a bit. Even if you're like, sometimes you might notice it when you're cleaning or when you mix two household substances together, you might notice this and see it. Smell is actually, a change in smell is the biggest indication of a chemical reaction. You might also see gas forming, which will look like bubbling. So acids, when you mix them with other things, will often form bubbles or gas, and that is an indication of a chemical reaction. What does a chemical reaction look like? Like if you saw one printed on a piece of paper, what's the structure of a written chemical reaction? Like what is in the middle? Yep, a chemical changing. And what goes in between? Maybe I'm not asking this right. So in a chemical reaction, we'll have an arrow in the middle. Does anyone know what the first part, this part, would be called? Versus this part.
no, I don't know, but I think like the first one is the substance before the change, and the other one is a substance after the change.
Yeah, and so actually we'll call that products. So the products are what happens after the change. And before the change, we have reactants. I like those definitions. And the arrow is always there. And then what are the states that these compounds or elements could be in? So when I look at them, what are, yes, solids, liquids, and gases. Thank you. So we would indicate them in little subscripts, I'll show you, in brackets beside the substance to indicate its state.